up guys, how's it going and welcome back to another video. I hope you guys are all doing good and staying safe, and in this video today I'm going to be talking to you about caring for crested geckos in the winter. I live in the UK and in the winter it gets very cold, down to 1 or 2 degrees sometimes, so it's really important to make sure your crested gecko is happy, healthy during these cold months of the winter. So I'm going to talk to you today about what I use and some tips that I found out along the way to help you guys care for your crested gecko in these cold temperatures if you do live in a cold environment. So let's get on with the video. Before I say anything, there are loads of ways to heat a vivarium, and it's up to the individual, whatever works for you best. Well, what works for me more than anything is using a heat mat. Now a heat mat comes in loads of different shapes and sizes. You can pick up at any pet store or reptile store, and basically it sticks on the side or underneath the vivarium and it just radiates heat through the glass and inside the vivarium to heat your crested gecko pretty much. I recommend putting it on the side because crested geckos like to climb. They like to go on the side of the glass, the top of the glass, above everything. They just love to climb, and especially when they sleep in a branch or up in your vivarium corner where they feel most safe, because that's what they'd naturally do in the wild. So I would recommend put it on the side of your tank, just so when the heat, if that's the mat there, the heat will come across, rather than if it was at the bottom, it would only come through the soil and sort of hover at the bottom. So you sort of want to put it at one place permanently on the side of the vivarium. Now, I wouldn't recommend sticking it in the middle. I've tried that before, and what I found out is that if you stick it in the middle, it's really hard to get a cold place for the vivarium. So with any reptile, especially crested geckos, if you do have a heat mat, they also need a cold zone. So the whole vivarium can't be the temperature that you set the mat at. It has to be a cold and a warm spot, because they need to be able to, if they get too hot or they get warm, they can just move over to the cold spot and cool back down, and that's how they live a happy life in a vivarium, especially in winter. So I would recommend putting it on the side, sort of maybe nearer to the top part of it, so the heat can just come down and just go across like that, and their cold bit is more at the bottom. So that's exactly how I've got my setup laid up. You guys can try it completely different, it could work for you, but I just recommend this because they love to climb. It's always on the glass, and ever since I did buy my crested gecko that heat mat, he's been attached to the heat mat constantly, absolutely all the time. He's just stuck against the glass and he loves the heat that radiates from it. So if you do go ahead and buy a heat mat for your vivarium, crested gecko, or whatever you are heating, even if it's a snake, any sort of reptile at all, I would seriously recommend getting a Mattstat. It's basically like a thermostat for your heat mat. So basically you'd plug in your heat mat to the Mattstat, and then the Mattstat would plug into the wall, so you can control the temperature that the mat's actually giving out. So then when the mat hits that certain temperature, it automatically doesn't go any higher and just stops there, and then it will turn off, and then when it gets colder in the vivarium it will come back on, and it just constantly runs like that to make sure that the temperature stays perfect in the vivarium at all times, because you never want it to actually fluctuate or go up even higher, because then what ends up happening is it could burn your reptile or crested gecko. It can also cause serious harm to them. It's sort of internally rather than just burns on the skin. So it's just not worth the risk. It's definitely worth buying one. I've had one constantly with it, and along with the digital thermostat, it just works absolutely perfectly. So guys, this is my heat mat that I use for my crested gecko. It's by Mattstat, actually a really good brand. I've used these guys the whole time I've had my crested gecko, and I can't fault them at all. They are absolutely perfect, and they're so affordable. I didn't have a lot of money to set up my crested gecko vivarium, so it was very minimal, and I just looked at this brand thinking, you know what, I'm going to give it a go, so why not? And it's absolutely perfect. So if you're ever sort of on a bit of a budget and you're looking for a cheaper option of the heat mat, I recommend this one massively. So guys, if you end up buying the heat mat and the Mattstat as well, this little probe comes with the Mattstat, and basically it goes between the mat and the glass like this, and this basically will always tell you the temperature that the mat is giving off, and as soon as it hits that temperature, this little probe will almost sort of send a message back to the actual Mattstat device, and it will say to turn off the heat. So it's so important that you get this in the right place, because you don't want it sort of just sticking into the vivarium, or you don't want it just to sort of hanging at the top, because then it won't give you a clear reading, and this mat will just get hotter and hotter. So it's so important that it goes between the mat and the glass. guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it's helped you guys out. If you're thinking how to heat your crested gecko or any reptile you have, I definitely would recommend the heat mat, especially in these cold times of the winter that you're coming into now. We are in the UK. And please guys, let me know exactly where you're guys from. Pop it in the comments down below. I'd love to actually know where some of you guys are from. That would be awesome. And I hope you guys stay safe, stay happy, and please consider subscribing if you're not already, and join the crew, family and love for animals we have on this channel. So I will see you guys in a video next week. Bye.